Good evening, everyone, and I wanted to welcome everybody. My name is Carol Moss. I am the first vice chair of this district. I am also the first vice chair of the county party. First and foremost, I want to wish Jennifer Pawlik a happy birthday, belated birthday. It was yesterday, so if you didn't know that, now you do. So happy birthday, Jennifer, and thank you for all the work you do, not only as our candidate this fall, but also as our representative in this district. Thank you. I also wanted to make sure before we go into our speakers tonight that everybody understands the importance of what we are going to be presenting here tonight. As Democrats, we usually have not had the opportunity to have contested races. We were just glad anybody stepped forward to run for an office. Well, those days have changed, and I'm sure they will continue to change as we go through, our growth as we expect the Democratic Party to grow. So we do have this season contested primaries, which means that you will be deciding in the primary on August 4th who will be the standard bearer for the party to run against the Republican, who holds that office. So we have tried to present to all of you all the different candidates running in those contested primaries. And for most of us on our ballot, those contested primaries will be the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. And for those that live in U.S. Congressional District 5, it will be for that House seat. So again, when you are listening to these candidates, and we will be asking them, to present why they are running and why they think they would be the person to knock off the incumbent, because the people they're running against are the incumbent. That is going to be very, very important. Also, I want to point out that we have a long list of offices that we need to elect. And so tonight we're going to have people in lower ballot races, as we call them, down the ballot, that will be speaking tonight. And those offices are just as important as the president's. We are seeing the importance of local governance here in the state as governors make decisions. As a judge, we just found out, who's going to put 600 people's lives in jeopardy because he's on vacation. We need to know that local governance is just as important as the U.S. government. So with that in mind, it is my privilege now to introduce our first speaker. Her name is Jacqueline Smith. She is a candidate for the Maricopa County Community College District 1. That means our district will be voting for her. So I'm going to ask all of the candidates tonight to talk to us about who they are. I'm not going to take any more time. Who they are, a little bit about themselves, why they're running, why they're qualified, and what they're going to do if they win the office to unseat an incumbent if they're running against one. So Jacqueline, please introduce yourself, and you have 5 minutes. Monroe, wave your hand. He is our timekeeper, so keep an eye on him, and he will monitor it for you in the chat, or in the screen now. So Jacqueline, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Really nice to be with you. I am Jacqueline, as she mentioned, and I am eager to join the Maricopa Community College's governing board. I've lived in Arizona since 2009. I moved here after completing my law degree at Georgetown Law in Washington, D.C., where I focused on education law and policy. I've known that I would always focus on education throughout my career, and I started my career at Arizona State University as a university administrator because I was inspired by President Michael Crow's commitment to access and inclusion. Community colleges are a place that are highly inclusive and are so important at this moment in time as we focus on economic recovery in Arizona and really across the United States. I decided to enter this race during the pandemic, and I'm proud to say that I needed to get 1,000 signatures, and I collected nearly 2,400 signatures, which was about double the number that my incumbent had collected and submitted. I hope that that indicates to you that I'm a hard worker and that when I set a goal, I will achieve it. I'm also highly team-oriented. I decided to enter this race in the pandemic because while at the leadership table at ASU, I got a quick sense of how completely complex COVID is for the higher education sector in terms of predicting enrollment, maintaining public health and safety, and also working with businesses and workforce to think about the creative ways we can make sure that we're preparing our future workforce. I've been following some of the discord that has existed on the community college board, in particular because of the incumbent Lauren Hendricks over the past several years. And I decided that it was not in the best interest for the citizens of Maricopa County or for the community colleges to maintain the status quo. But instead, we need a governing board that is solutions oriented, is able to collaborate, and is not going to make decisions for personal political benefits, but instead is going to make decisions that will be the best for Maricopa County and for the students that are part of these 10 community colleges. As a quick reminder for those who are less familiar with the Community College Governing Board, the District 1 seat is the same shape as the Board of Supervisors districts. There are 5 districts, and then there are 2 at-large positions. I'm running for the District 1 seat, which includes a good portion of your legislative district, but also areas in the East Valley, including Tempe and Ahwatukee, a little bit of South Scottsdale. I am a eager education advocate through and through. As I mentioned, I earned an advanced degree to focus on education law and policy. And I am very eager to join other pro-education governing board members to make sure that we can help make important decisions in the year ahead. A couple final points here. I want to emphasize that I am also someone who has taught during the COVID crisis. I converted my class to teach online, so I understand that perspective. I'm a professor at ASU in addition to my administrator appointment now at the ASU Foundation. I want to be able to have a positive working relationship between the governing board and a variety of stakeholders, businesses, the chancellor, students. I'm very excited that there was recently a student board member appointed who just completed her first term, and I'm eager to work with her. Please feel free to message me directly in the chat. I'm proud to say that I no longer need to request your help with signatures. Where I need your help now is to please consider following me on social media, which is now in the chat. Please consider making a donation. And I am also very interested in getting to know you, and I'm open to schedule a call with you and some of your neighbors and others to help get the word out, because my objective from here until November is to let people know that the Community College Governing Board is an office that really matters, and I'm the right woman for the job because of my work history and my collaborative outlook. Thank you for your support, and I'm happy to take any questions in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. And again, if anybody wants to ask a question, please do so in the chat to Jacqueline or follow up. You have her contact information. Since we have a full agenda, we're going to keep moving on, okay? And again, thank you so much for coming. And I hope everybody keeps in mind the fact that we are not funding the Maricopa Community College any longer with a lot of the taxes that once went to them. So it's critical that we support and get right governance on the Maricopa Community College Board. All right, now we're going to move on to a candidate, again, in a contested race. Again, this is for CD5, which includes most of LD17. There are some parts of LD17 that are CD9, but for the lower part of it, it's CD5, and we've had now with Javier joining us, all 3 candidates who are running. So I'm going to ask Javier the same questions, you know, a little bit about yourself, why you're running, and why, if you win this nomination, how you're going to unseat, in this case, Andy Biggs. So Javier Ramos is going to speak now. Thank you, Javier.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody from LD17, the voters and guests. My name is Javier Ramos, and I'm running for Congress in Congressional District 5. CD5 encompasses much of the East Valley, including Queen Creek, Gilbert, East Mesa, and parts of Chandler. My wife, Marincita, who was born on the Navajo Nation, and I are residents of Queen Creek, and we live in Queen Creek Station. I was born in Arizona in the small migrant farming community of Cashin, Arizona, and raised by a single determined mother and by my grandmother. Spanish was my first language, and I grew up working in the agriculture fields of Phoenix. My mother taught me early on the values of respect and equality, and that education was the great equalizer. I attended Arizona public schools from Head Start through community college at Glendale Community College, and graduated law school at the age of 24 from Arizona State. During the same time, my mother was determined to receive her college education, and after 12 years, she received her bachelor's to become a teacher. My mom eventually was honored with Bilingual Teacher of the Year for Arizona. I have been practicing law for 24 years. My experience ranges from an assistant attorney general for the state of Arizona to legal counsel for the Navajo Nation, the city of Peoria, and the Gila River Indian community. I dedicated my life as a public servant's attorney. I have had the privilege of filing and settling a federal lawsuit on behalf of the Navajo Nation against the state of Arizona to allow tribal members the right to use tribal IDs to vote. My named plaintiff was Agnes Laughter. I visited her several times in a small community on the Navajo Nation. As you recall, Proposition 200 required certain voter IDs to vote at the polls. Ms. Laughter, like a lot of Navajos, lacked birth certificates, social security cards, and driver's license. I was able to successfully require that the state of Arizona to allow a non-exhaustive list of tribal IDs for tribal citizens to vote at the polls. A second, but not less meaningful privilege of mine was my participation in repatriating a Huhucam petroglyph boulder back to the Gila River Indian tribe from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The church reached out to us, and I was able to resolve the specifics of the return of the 4-ton boulder on November 20th of last year back to the Gila River Indian community from the Mesa Temple. The boulder is a culturally significant object for the community. I have also worked at the federal level for 7 years. I have participated in high-level meetings at the White House complex sitting next to Senator Kennedy, working on education issues, specifically Head Start issues, and working with both Senator McCain and Senator Kyle on infrastructure issues. I have also worked on an international level in the United Nations in Geneva and the Organization of American States. Candidates talk about discrimination and racism. My family and I experience discrimination regularly. When Sheriff Arpaio was in power, my son, who is both Navajo and of Mexican descent, who was in 3rd grade at the time, asked me if he was going to be stopped while in Arizona. These are the situations that motivate me to run for others. If I have the honor of being elected to Congress, I will be able to immediately work on important issues for our district, from appropriations for infrastructure projects to reinstating the federal pre-clearance requirement for any voting changes contemplated by the Republican Party, to moving forward to a system of Medicare for all. I am able to immediately make an impact that will have a positive impact upon our district. Several issues that will have an immediate impact is to enact legislation that would require Arizona to seek federal pre-clearance of any changes to its redistricting maps. Secondly, I will seek appropriations to fully fund the Mesa Gateway Sky Bridge so it can be the economic engine of the East Valley, which will bring international commerce through Mesa Gateway. I seek endorsements from individuals and not corporations, because individuals vote and people's votes matter. So I look forward to your support and your vote on August 4th. The only thing I need you to do is to look beyond the rhetoric. Look into my experience working at the city, state, federal, and tribal level, and consider me for your Democratic nominee for Congress. I also had the personal experience and integrity to do right by Congressional District 5. We have a limited window at this juncture of time to make the right decisions. As always, you can reach me at my phone number, 602-686-0072. On a last note, I am not accepting or asking for any political donations at this time. I personally do not feel that it is appropriate to request political contributions for several reasons. One being that we have the highest unemployment rates that we have seen And if politicians have a difficult time supporting human beings versus corporations, then we shouldn't subsidize politicians. Lastly, I hope that you and your family are in good health and in spirits, and I look forward to any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Javier. Monroe, how much time do we have left to see if there's a chance? We have 4 minutes, so five minutes. Does anyone have a question for Javier at this point? We can take 1 or 2 questions.
I have a question. This is
I'm sorry?
I have a question.
Oh, okay. Hi, Odie. I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Javier, thank you so much for sharing a great message. I wanted to know more about the Mesa International Gateway. This is the first time I'm hearing of this, maybe because I live in Chandler, but can you talk about how that will produce jobs and what type of funding will that take and the type of support you will need for to see a project like that exist in Mesa?
Thank you, Odie. First of all, I'm sorry about your signs, and I'm glad that you were able to get them all replaced. We all, as candidates, had similar situations, and so I'm glad that you got those replaced. As you know, in our district, we're Chandler, Queen Creek, East Mesa, and Gilbert. We have 4 airports in our district: Falcon, Pegasus, Chandler Regional, and Mesa Gateway. Mesa Gateway is the biggest one, and it's already been under construction. It's called Sky Bridge at Mesa Gateway, which is the old military base. And so I want to fully fund Sky Bridge. That's going to be where Customs is going to be based out of, Homeland Security. So they're going to be able to transfer consumer goods from Mexico and Canada through the United States through Mesa Gateway. And they're going to be able to do that in a 1-day turnaround. That airport is an old Air Force base that needs upgrading, a constant upgrading from the tower to the runways. And and bless his heart, Andy Biggs he cannot get on the Appropriations Committee. I know how Washington, D.C. works. I want to get on the Appropriations Committee. Our infrastructure in the East Valley has been neglected by our congressman. He is ineffective up in DC. I want to immediately get on the Appropriations Committee so we can fully fund our infrastructure needs, and Mesa Gateway Sky Bridge is one of the major ones. It's going to be both low-paying jobs, it's going to have high-paying jobs. It's going to be the economic engine for the East Valley when there's a lot of commerce. Once our economy gets going again, commerce is going to go through that airport, and I want to fully fund it so it's done correctly. And I appreciate the question, Odie.
Thank you. Thank you both, Odie and Javier. Monroe, do we have any more time? 2 minutes. 1 quick question for Javier, and if not, then we will move on. And since I can't see everybody's screen. Okay. Thank you, Javier, very much.
Carol, if I can end real quickly, and I just want to tell LD17, thank you so much for including all the candidates on your forums. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to the opportunity to represent our Congressional District 5. And thank you so much for the time.
You're welcome. That's why we're here, is to make sure our voters have the education they need. So, all right. Now, speaking of contested campaigns, for those people who live in Chandler, we have the Chandler City Council coming up. And again, I believe we've had most, not all, but most of the candidates running. We have 3 seats open in Chandler. It's very important you vote on August 4th because at least 1, maybe 2, I don't know if 3 will be filled in that election. But, okay, there's a possibility that, could be a possibility that this election won't go past August 4th. So it's important that you are, again, aware of who's running, and we wanted to bring back Rick Heumann, who is one of the council candidates, for your ability to hear him and ask any questions. Rick, you have 5 minutes. You've seen Monroe in the corner, so I'll let you go ahead and take it over. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Nancy, for the opportunity. Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Heumann. A lot of you guys know me. I want to just give a little brief history. I want to leave some time for questions, but I'm originally from New York City, from Brooklyn. My parents were neighborhood activists. My sister was a post-polio victim. I'm going to put a cheap plug in for my sister's movie on Netflix called Crip Camp. It's about the disability movement through the 70s and 80s. My sister, many of you know, went on to work for President Clinton and President Obama in their cabinet at very high levels as well. So I started my career cutting my teeth in politics back in the 90s, everything from power line sidings to super warehouses, served on the Planning Commission, served on Parks and Rec. I have a lot of experience. This is what this council race is going to be about, experience. I served on council from 2009 through 2016 during what we thought was the greatest recession ever to hit this country until now. We were able to, no layoffs, no furloughs. We were able to make sure the city moved forward. I also was really proud. I served as the regional president of AMWA, which is the Regional Water Authority. But I'm most proud of, I started the Chandler Education Coalition, which brought the school districts together, brought the city together and the business community together. We started the Chandler SciTech Festival. We started Read on Chandler. Read on Chandler is a program now that continues as a Birth to 5 initiative to make sure kids are ready to read when they get to school. I went back on Planning Commission after council. I serve on a lot of nonprofit boards as well. The thing that's really troubled me over the last 3 or 4 months is that we have a council right now that's a bunch of ideologues, and they're not doing what their number one job is public safety. That is the number one job for council. It's not economic development. It's not making sure schools are, parks are funded. It's all about public safety. Chandler used to be the leader in the valley on anything, and now Chandler's a follower. We have 6 ideologues on that council right now, some of my friends who I don't agree with politically, that have hidden behind the governor, hidden behind the president, and not making decisions necessary for our citizens. I've challenged them on it. They've tried to go through a lot of exec sessions. I've challenged them on that. They weren't going to televise the last meeting about the proclamation. I challenged them on that. And our proclamation in Chandler was a voluntary proclamation, where every other city from Tempe, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Mesa, Republicans and Democrats alike, Mayor Giles, Mayor Lane, all people that I've worked with before, led and really made sure it's about public safety. So, that's one of the main reasons I want to get back on, to make sure that we get through this recession, get through the virus, but lead our city to where it was. And I'm not a ribbon cutter, and people who know me, I dig into the issues. I ask a lot of questions. People go, you ask too many questions, but I have a rule about staff. Don't embarrass me and I won't embarrass you. And I work really closely with our staff, and we've gotten a lot of really good things done. So I'm going to leave some time for questions. I'm Rick Heumann, running for Chandler City Council. Experience matters. You can check out my website. We're working hard on the field right now. We're knocking on a lot. We're not knocking on doors, but we're leaving a lot of literature right now. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rick. Monroe, how much time do we have for questions? 2 minutes? Okay. Do I have a question or two for Rick? And please speak up or unmute yourself.
I see Helen waving her hand. Just unmute.
Okay. Helen, unmute yourself.
Are we in Sun Lakes permitted to vote for you?
No, Sun Lakes, there's only one little small section of Sun Lakes that votes in Chandler. Otherwise, unfortunately, Sun Lakes is not part of the city of Chandler in terms of voting.
Okay, I had a feeling, but double check.
But you can tell all your friends in Chandler. I appreciate that a lot. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
Where are you from
sections
in
of
New York?
Ironwood.
Where are you from in New York?
Brooklyn.
Oh, Queens.
Okay.
Yeah, sections of Ironwood have a Chandler address, so they're the only ones in Sun Lakes that have that ability to vote.
Right, correct.
Another quick question? Oh, Suzanne, I see you. I'm sorry if I've ignored anyone else.
Hi, Rick. I just wanted to know, many of us watched that special session, and I'm glad so many people never saw a council meeting before. That was their introduction. And excuse me, I was just wondering what you had have done. I know Matt Orlando was trying to present emails, thousands of emails, and it was all dismissed as mob rule. And I'm just curious, what would you have done if you had been sitting there during that special session on the masks?
I was actually appalled by the mayor not allowing any public comment at that meeting. And there were people for pros and cons as well. I'm a big believer in transparency. And I think it's super important that I would not have allowed one council member to poo-poo over almost 450 to 50 in terms of people that wanted masks. A chamber vote that was over 2 to 1, over 2,000 to 1,000 people, business community people who wanted mandatory masks. So I would have fought for that. and I would have had educated myself on the issues. I would have been talking to the health professionals, talking to the scientists. Those are the people that need to help make the decisions. You know, I talk about this all the time in my business. I run a pretty large multi-million-dollar business in the United States. And we talked about there was no playbook about this virus. And on March 15th, there wasn't any restaurant, bar, anything closed down in this country. And things change over time. You know, you think about a hip replacement 20 years ago, you were in the hospital for days. Now you're out of bed in an hour. You know, bypass surgeries, things change quickly. And to think about how this virus has changed and how more data is coming in every day, that's why we need to ask the experts. We don't need to ask the ideologues. We don't need to listen to a few people screaming about my constitutional rights about wearing a mask. Give me a break. So I saw a quote in the paper the other day about a veteran, 94-year-old veteran who had been in prisoner war camp going, I don't get this. You know, I suffered and people are complaining about that. So I would have fought for it. If we didn't pass it, it would have been mandatory. Matt and myself have worked very closely together. We served together before on council, and we worked really hard to make sure that would have happened.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Rick, very much. And again, for all the people in Chandler, these offices will be filled probably in the August 4th primary. So again, this is why you need to be voting in the primary. So please use that opportunity to either mail in your ballot or make sure if you're going to the polls, you get there and get there early, I would suggest, to make sure that your vote counts. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our hometown team. AJ, Jennifer, I don't know how you're splitting the time. You have 10 minutes to bring us up to date on, again, you know, what's at stake with your run, who are you running against, what we need to do to help you out, and so forth. So Monroe, start the clock. You guys got 10.
Right. I think I'm going to go first today.
Okay.
Dear friends, fellow Democrats, amazing members of LD17, my name is Ajlan Kurdoglu. You can call me AJ, and I am your next state senator. Isn't this amazing? And it's kind of hard to believe that the ballots starting tomorrow will be mailed. And we are basically less than a month away to start our final chapter of all our efforts of bringing our values, our dreams to the forefront of Arizona. And I just want to share a moment with you because I know this moment was coming and I was excited, and LD17 is my family, so I wanted to take this moment. So everybody showed this. This is the voter guide, and Spanish and English. On page 18, don't look at the bottom one. The top guy is your guy. That's me. That's my picture and my story. That's a story of an immigrant who came into this country after college, studied more, built a business here, built a life in Chandler, and worked his hardest for 13 years to become a proud US citizen. And today, I'm your candidate to represent you, to serve you at Arizona State Senate. I can't express how humbled I am, but also I am so proud for our district, our state, and our country. This doesn't happen in any other country, guys. It doesn't. And seriously, this is a great country. And this is a testament of the American experiment that over 2 centuries, it gets better and better every day. And in the search of that perfect union. And there is a proof of that, a living proof, undeniable proof out there. There are thousands of people every day lining around the world to get into this country. So this shows how great this place is. And I know that as Americans, we still have a lot of struggles to overcome, a lot of problems big issues that we have to solve. But still, even in this moment, this is an amazing country because we all get together, stand shoulder to shoulder to protest, to work hard to correct our wrongs. And this is what I believe is the American exceptionalism. And to tie up all this to my little race here, and I'm running to make Arizona a better place, worthy of its people, where we can educate our kids, where we can take care of our elderly in their golden years, and where we will listen our everyday hardworking Arizonans. And this is the moment I need you in this race. There is no if, no buts. This is the time that I need you to get involved. We are less than a month away to win this race. I mean, to start primary and win this race. And by November 3, please take a moment, close your eyes. It's November 3, 9 p.m. You're sitting on your chair, watching the news, looking at your screen, and Trump is still your president. Martha McSally is still representing you, and JD and Jeff and Liz is out there at the Capitol. Or you can have Joe Biden, Mark Kelly, and yours truly out there with amazing Jennifer Pawlik. I mean, I know at that moment you will not be sitting, you will be dancing, but it is all in your hand. Our team, we're doing everything we can. Jennifer, Steve, Lena, and Laura, we're working our hardest, and my promise to you, we'll be doing that till November 3. But I need you to step up. Jennifer will talk about the phone banking and stuff. I'm a treasurer. I need your donations. I do need it. There is no other way. And I'm running against a corporate-backed, career, lifelong politician out there. I need every dollar that you can send to my way, because especially right now, during this pandemic, this is the only way that we can reach out, and every dollar, it's more important. Your $100 will mean to us that we can connect to, we can text over 1,000 people and maybe get in touch with 100 people. Your $100 donation gives us a chance to be in front of 500 Facebook Chandler users in Facebook. We need you. We need you to step up at this moment if you want to dance on November 3 rather than sulking. So I love you, LD17. You get me through here. And this is like a July 4th speech. So God bless you. God bless Arizona, and God bless United States of America. Thank you.
And then I'm going to jump right in here. So I want to thank everybody for being so supportive. I am thrilled to tell you that in Q2, I exceeded my financial goals. So thank you for your help with that. I need you also to know that Q3 is where we really start spending our money. We're going to hire another field director to help with the outreach. We are going to start ordering our mail pieces. We're going to start pushing out digital ads as well. So Q3, we really kick up the spend. I want to remind you, we have only 4 weeks, 28 days until the primary election. We have about 12,000 calls to make. So if you split 12,000 between AJ and me, oh my goodness gracious, we don't even have time to sleep. But if we get you to help us on these phone banks, then it will be doable. So right now we have phone banks Wednesdays at 4:30, Saturdays at 10, and Sundays at 1. And if you're thinking to yourself, yes, I would love to help AJ and Jennifer, but those times don't work for me, that's okay. We will work with you. Now, Laura is not on the call tonight because she's doing a different training, but between Laura and Steve and our new field person that we will be hiring in the next week, they will hook you up with a link so that you can join the phone bank. So maybe I can ask Steve to type the Mobilize link in the chat right now. That would be fantastic. I also wanted, can you show me, Monroe, how much time I have left?
You
2
have all the
minutes.
time.
Okay. So the next thing that I wanted to make sure you knew, we are going to be doing a fundraiser that is fun in August 11th from 6:30 to 8:30. It is called the Big Quiz Thing. And it's basically a trivia game where you set up your own team and you're trying to beat the other teams. It'll be so much fun. And you can find the link on my Facebook page or on AJ's Facebook page. And we hope that you will join us for that fun activity. Last of all, I wanted to point out that I am now up to 19 endorsements. So a lot of those endorsements include the unions. I have Teamsters, Building and Construction Trades, Pipe Trades Local 469, AFSCME, and AFL-CIO. And then converse to the unions, I have also Arizona Chamber, Greater Phoenix Chamber, Chandler Chamber, and the Arizona Tech Council. And then last but not least that I wanted to make sure I highlighted today is the AEA. If you've been with me a really long time, you'll know back in 2016, I was not even given the endorsement questionnaire because they said I was not viable. So to get that endorsement means an incredible amount to me. So with that, I leave you. So think about helping us out. You don't want to be sad on election day that you didn't do enough. If you can give us a couple of hours a week, it'll make all the difference. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. You made my night with the AEA, huh?
Good, me too.
It's about time. Okay. All right. Now we're going to go to our next speaker. And again, as I've said, we have a contested race for the Maricopa County Attorney's race. And our next speaker is one of those candidates. So again, Julie, we're going to want to know a little bit about you, why you're running, what you bring to the party, and most importantly, you know, if you win the nomination, how are you going to run the office, or how are you going to beat the current incumbent, Alistair Adele, who was appointed? So Julie, you've got 10 minutes. Keep an eye to Monroe, and it's all yours.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, LD17, for having me. And a belated birthday to you, Representative Pawlik. I know as a fellow PC in LD15 how meaningful it is to be able to look at my ballot and be able to put a face with all of those names. And I'm just so grateful to have a moment of your time so you can put a face with my name on the ballot that'll be arriving here in just a matter of days. So let me talk to you about this incredibly important race that you will not find in your voter guide. The Maricopa County Attorney's race is one of many county offices that are up for election here in 2020. It is the prosecutor's office for our county. It is in charge of all of the felony prosecutions within Maricopa County. It's the third largest prosecutorial authority in the United States. It's in charge of all of the misdemeanors in our unincorporated areas, and it also advises the almost 60+ county subdivisions and agencies that we have here in Maricopa County. It's been in Republican hands for almost 40 years, and we have an opportunity to change that here in November. Incidentally, we've never elected a woman to this job either, and when you look across executive county leadership in Maricopa County, you don't see a single elected female. So this very important office, though, is at the heart of criminal justice reform and what we can do here in Maricopa County to make us more just, more safe, and more fair. So my name is Julie Gunnigle. I was born and raised right here in the Valley. I am the mom of 3, and I'm a former prosecutor of politicians. I started out as a prosecutor in Indiana, and later was tapped to join the Financial Crime and Public Corruption Bureau in Cook County, Illinois, where I prosecuted Chicago politicians and corporations who had broken the law and stole public money. I'm also a recognized scholar on organized crime. My work has been cited to the United States Supreme Court, and today I practice civil law, focusing on education, reproductive justice, and I'm so proud to say that I'm going on my 14th year of practice. Every year I commit over 500 hours pro bono to make maternal health care safer in Arizona and fight invasive government regulations that tell a woman, you know, what she can and cannot do with her body. I have to tell you though, at this point in time, that I do have a highlight reel that I'd like to share, which is, you know, I come from a family of educators, and public education is just deep within the fiber of my being. And last cycle in 2018, you may remember the Invest in Ed initiative the first time. And you may remember that there was a fella named J.D. Messner who decided that he was going to write extremely deceptive ballot language to accompany this. Boo, I see you booing out there, AJ. I got to boo with my mother in person, testify against it, and guess what? The Court of Appeals ended up tossing his incredibly deceptive language. So I cannot wait for you to get an honest public servant who believes in public education. And gosh, AJ, we're just rooting for you from afar. But to circle back, that's why I'm running and why I am in this race. I didn't come at this running for office in any sort of traditional way. I came at this because I have a child who isn't neurotypical. And when we moved back to Arizona, which is where I was born and raised, and I put my kiddos in the very same preschools and public schools that I grew up in, I saw how under-resourced we'd become. And I started going down to the legislature and asking for help. And I saw how our legislators can just vote on legislation that affects businesses and schools that they own, and that they do it with legal impunity. I saw that they can take giant campaign contributions from the for-profit prison industry and then write legislation that raises mandatory minimums and throws our most marginalized communities behind bars for lengths of time that are almost unrivaled in the United States. We're the 4th largest incarcerator in the country, 5th, and we are the 8th largest in the entire world. So our campaign's platform for Maricopa County Attorney is straightforward. First, we've got to get our priorities straight. The business of this office should be to fight public corruption, to focus on crimes of violence, and to prosecute individuals who would commit crimes against our most vulnerable communities, like our children and our seniors. Let's get our priorities straight and focus our efforts there. Next, we need to make meaningful reforms. We've been talking about ending the prosecution of marijuana, creating veterans treatment courts that can better serve those who have served our country, about finally treating mental illness and addiction instead of incarcerating it, and creating an office that is explicitly anti-racist, because this office has some of the greatest sentencing disparities in our country when it comes to Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Together, these smart reforms can save us taxpayers $250 million a year while making us safer. So we can do this if we can get a reform-minded county attorney who can make these sorts of meaningful reforms. Last, third, I want to keep this office out of your personal life. You probably know that this office has a sordid history when it comes to all sorts of things, but specifically, this was the office that Bill Montgomery decided to use to end pro bono adoption services for same-sex couples. And he did so because of dogma and religion, and it's not right. We can restore that if we get a fair-minded county attorney and an equality-minded county attorney. This office also interacts with a woman's right to choose. As you probably know, in Arizona, we never repealed our felony abortion law, but we also still have a misdemeanor contraceptive statute on the books that would make it a misdemeanor to even advertise this, the sale of contraceptives here in Maricopa County. We are one Supreme Court vote away from overturning Roe, and were we to overturn Roe, those become enforceable, and our current unelected county attorney has said that she would be duty-bound to enforce them. I believe that this office needs to stay out of our personal life, and that means respecting a woman's right to choose. So, I am the only person in this race with substantial felony prosecution experience who can actually hit the ground running rather than learning on the job. With 4 million residents of Maricopa County, this criminal justice reform absolutely cannot wait. I am so happy to be able to share with you tonight my bold vision of how we can reform our criminal justice system and do it in a way that will make us safer, save us money, focus on rehabilitation rather than on punitive measures. I also want to share with you what we're building, because I am so proud that we are a true grassroots and volunteer funded effort. We have over 200 volunteers working on Team Gunnigle who believe in this bold vision of criminal justice reform. We were the only campaign for county attorney who was able to get their 6,000 plus signatures that were in person and on paper, and do it completely with unpaid volunteers. I want your help. So if you want to join our grassroots movement to make these changes, I hope that you'll join me. Gunnigle 2020 is the place to go. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions you might have in your, how many more minutes of time? One more minute of time. I guess I get one more minute. What?
Yeah, we can, one question. Is there anybody who has a question for Julie?
Carol, there was a question in the chat.
Okay.
From
Can you
Carissa.
read it?
She was going to unmute herself. Carissa, go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Gunnigle, so you've mentioned your substantial experience in prosecuting individuals. I have substantial experience in defending those individuals, and what I heard from you is you want to make this county just, safe, and fair, and you are talking about fighting public corruption. You want to protect the vulnerable, Veterans Court and Mental Health Court. What I did not hear from you is, I want to know, and this is after 15 years of being in this business, practicing major felony crimes, I want to know what you are going to do as county attorney about the police brutality that is going on in this state. We are #1 for police shootings in America. And since the Black Lives Matter movement, we've had 3 to 4 more. So I didn't hear prosecuting police. I did not hear that coming from you. And I've been doing this for 15 years. And most of my clients of color, the stories that they have told us, thank God we have body cams now. Thank God we have cell phones now. So what I want to know is, when you have police misconduct, what are you going to do about it? That's what we want to know. That's what my clients want to know. What are you going to do about it? And not for political sake, are you going to go after these cops? That's what we need to know. I may be a white woman. I have a kid that is half Chicana. Okay. So what I'm asking you is, what are you going to do? Are you going to prosecute these cops? Are you going to go after them? That's what we need to know. That's what my clients want to know. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So my experience as a prosecutor has been prosecuting those who hold the power. And I can think of no group who has escaped accountability more than our police officers with a Republican at the helm of our Maricopa County Attorney's Office. So feel free to visit my gunnigle2020.com/platform. I have an incredibly built out platform of how exactly we'll do it. But the 1-minute version is, we need independent prosecutors and an independent bureau to review police use of force cases, because our prosecutors rely on officers day in and day out to prove the crimes that happen, and they get prosecuted through this office. It is an undeniable conflict of interest to ask those same prosecutors to turn around and prosecute the officers that they rely on. It's why we need actual real independence. And guess what? Because it's a matter of priority, it's something that your county attorney can do on day 1 as a use of her discretion.
Thank you, Julie. And thank you for the question, Carissa. All right, so thank you again, Julie. Now it's time to present the next candidate that we have, who is also running for the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. And I'd like to introduce to you Will Knight. And again, Will, give us a little information about yourself, why you're running for this office, and again, what you will do in this office. How are you going to take on Alistair Adele and win? Will?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, it's great to be here in LD 17. I'm going to flip the script this time and actually start with the last question, because in 2016, we had 500,000 Black, Latinx, Native American voters, eligible voters, who did not show up to cast a ballot. Now, since then, you know, the county's gotten bluer, right? Kyrsten Sinema won, I think, statewide by 60,000 votes, but Maricopa by 80,000 votes, right? There's still hundreds of thousands of eligible voters out there whose voices are not being heard. And that's incredibly important right now, when we look out in the streets and we see there are people marching, demanding justice, demanding transformative justice, not just Band-Aids. And these are people who have not been engaged by our party in a long, long time. If we can engage our most marginalized communities, we build a movement. So I'm going to take a page out of President Obama's book, who said, how do we win elections? We win by organizing. We win by re-enfranchising voters that we've lost, and by enfranchising new voters who've never trusted the government, who've never trusted the system. And that's the plan. I'll talk a little bit more about how we beat Adele specifically at the end, but let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Will Knight. I am a Colombian immigrant, and I am blessed to be an American. And I'm running for this office because I'm one of those people who's demanding justice, because my entire life, I have been directly impacted by our broken justice systems. The only reason I'm a lawyer in the first place, because when I was a child in the early 1980s, my family was kidnapped and held hostage by violent drug cartels who were empowered by our war on drugs and the international policy that came from it. Because the only formative memory I have of my biological father is saying goodbye to him when I was 4 years old, right before he went to federal prison for a drug offense, and I never saw him again. And because when I was a teenager growing up in Georgia, chip on my shoulder for all of those reasons, I myself got in trouble. I got arrested for an underage misdemeanor DUI. And though I wasn't impaired, I had a .021 BAC, it was still a colossally stupid thing to do. I hurt my mom, I was ashamed of myself, but it was a really important moment in my life because it was sitting in that jail cell, terrified that I was gonna end up like my dad, that I decided to spend my life and my career helping my community. And that's what set me on the path that brings me in front of you here today. So that's why I'm running for this office, because I believe in second chances, and because I believe that we need somebody in this critical moment in history with my perspective to transform how we conceive of policing and prosecuting in the first place. My 3-point platform is really simple. It's been streaming shamelessly over my head. We're going to end mass incarceration. We're going to hold law enforcement accountable. These are not platforms that I've crafted since the pandemic and since the Black liberation movement has been gaining so much traction. These have been the platforms since day one. And of course, we are going to give our community a voice in the criminal justice process. I have a pretty good resume for getting that done. I am a Valley-educated lawyer. I graduated second in my class from ASU Law, and I got my start in criminal prosecution here in the Valley, not out of state, at the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, at the Attorney General's Office, and at the U.S. Attorney's Office. I went on from there to some of the best civil law firms in the state, where I got to work on really important civil rights cases, like helping bring marriage equality to LGBTQIA Arizonans, and helping exonerate people who had been wrongly convicted by our broken system. For the last 4 years or so, I have been a public defender proudly representing some of the most marginalized people in our community. I've also been a community leader my entire career in the local and national Hispanic bar associations, fighting for diversity in the profession and on the bench. And I'm an educator. I teach at my alma mater now, ASU Law, as an adjunct professor. A couple of things that set me apart. I am the only candidate in this race who has sat in every single seat in that courtroom except the one wearing robes. And I mean, as a crime victim, as a defendant, as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, that gives me incredible perspective that we need right now to bridge the culture gap that we have, the culture problem that we have, not just in this office, but societally, as we are otherizing folks that need help. I also have the most comprehensive plan for how to do this, and it's going to save us more than $400 million every single year. And that's money that we can and will use to help improve public safety and promote public health by investing in mental health crisis response systems, overdose prevention sites, substance use treatment centers, and for the love of God, jobs training and education programs, which is what our diversion programs should really be focusing on. I'm also the only directly impacted voice, the only immigrant. And in our 150-year history as a county, think about that. That's an incredible fact. This county was founded in 1871 before the state of Arizona. And for 150 years, in this place that used to be a part of Mexico, we have never once had a person of color, much less a Latinx county attorney. Adrian Fontes was the first Latino countywide elected official in our history. That's one of the reasons that the people marching are disenfranchised. That's one of the reasons that the Black community, that my community, doesn't trust this system. And so that's what we need to do, is to earn their trust. And I'm proud to announce that we've done that. This is a complicated primary, but we reported at the end of first quarter that we outraised everybody else, including Alistair Adele. And I'm proud to report that we broke our records. I don't know what all the numbers are gonna look like now, but it looks like we're doing well. We have a boatload of volunteers hitting roughly 3,000 doors every week safely, with social distancing, no contact, with masks. But we're dropping lit at 3,000 doors a week just on our own, not including our community partners. We have a massive text campaign and a 6-figure digital campaign, because this is a movement that we're building. And it's not about me. It's about those of us who have been run over. So another staggering thing, our endorsements, the amount of community support that we've developed, even during a complicated primary. I've been endorsed by legislators like Senator Martin Quesada, Senator Juan Mendez, Representative Robert Mesa, by other elected leaders in education and in our municipal spaces. Linda Thor, Dr. Thor, from the Maricopa County Community Colleges Board, who's helping me develop these education and jobs training programs. In the East Valley, school board leaders, Burdetta Hodge, Lindsay Love, West Valley school board leaders, Mariana Sandoval and Mary Kay Utecht, and of course, Tempe Vice Mayor Lauren Kuby. And recently, community leaders who have voices in this space, Reverend Reginald Walton, Danny Ortega, who got some measure of justice at long last for Antonio Arce's family when our interim appointee refused to seek justice for a 14-year-old boy who was shot in the back and killed by a police officer. And the youth support. We were recently endorsed by Amber Rivera, the president of the Maricopa County Young Democrats. I found out just the other day that the Maricopa County High School Democrats have decided to endorse me, and that's huge. That's continuing to build our volunteer base and the movement. We also have the support and the trust of some of our most important community advocates, advocates for economic justice and racial justice, advocates for reproductive justice and bodily autonomy, like Planned Parenthood, who has chosen me as the candidate that they support to protect bodily autonomy, the Arizona Justice Alliance, with member organizations like the ACLU, Arizona Death Penalty Alternatives, and the National Lawyers Guild, and of course, Mass Liberation, who is leading the liberation movement right now. And I also recently found out from Lucha, Living United for a Change, who helped us recall Senator Russell Pierce, the first time in US history that we recalled a sitting Senate president, and helped take out Joe Arpaio, for Christ's sake. They've decided to support Mass Liberation's decision to endorse me. So we are building a movement here. How do you beat a Republican? Well, we do that by reaching across the aisle. I'm the only candidate in this race that has a comprehensive understanding of harm reduction, and that's why I'm the only candidate that's committed to defelonizing, to not using our felony courts to respond to addiction issues. Believe it or not, that has earned me a whole lot of conservative support. Leaders at the Cato Institute and those pinko lefties at the Goldwater Institute are helping me out and supporting this campaign because of it. That's going to help us reach across the aisle and earn support from Republicans who also want to see real justice reform. And of course, mobilizing new voters like I've already talked about. We need a candidate who's going to prioritize prevention over detention, who truly understands these things. And that's me, because I have not only the most relevant experience in this race, because I've sat at both tables here in the Valley. I agree, Ms. Gunnigle has a great track record. She prosecuted cases for a very long time in another state. My experience is from Maricopa County, but I'm also the most experienced candidate because I've been impacted by our system my entire life. And that's not nothing in this critical moment in history. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Will. Monroe, how are we doing on time? 1 minute. Does anybody have a question for Will? And speak up or unmute yourself. I can't see everybody.
Carissa Jacoby has a question.
Carissa always has a question.
I always have a question. I want to know about, are you going to prosecute police if you have probable cause to do so?
Yes, that's my second platform.
Okay. That we're going to hold you to it.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
I also left a piece of information for everybody, just in case you want to understand how deep this movement is, how long it's been going on here in the Valley. If you'd like to educate yourself a little bit more about what's going on in the Native community, the Latinx community, and the Black community, I sent a Justice Reform Education Organizations chart. That's something LD13 asked me to put together a while ago. So just off the top of my head, I started, and then it turned into a really powerful resource. So thank you so much for having me. If you'd like to follow us, to learn more, to follow the campaign, you can do that on our website, night2020.com, and of course on every platform.
We have all of the information.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Good to be
Sorry,
here.
we have to wrap it up here. All right, Nancy, the speakers are complete, so back to you.
Thank you. I want to thank all the speakers. It was a great evening. And hearing from a couple of the county attorney candidates was great tonight. So thank you all. Javier. So anyway, I want to wish everybody a good evening, rest of the evening. All of you who are PCs or members of LD17, please let AJ and Jennifer know what you'd like to do, how many phone calls you want to make. And again, contributions to their campaigns would be greatly welcomed. So again, thank all of you for being with us and have a great evening. See you in September. AJ.
Oh, I forgot to mention, even the presidential candidate do this. Voteforaj.com. That's my website. Sorry, I got excited during the speech.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
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 We finished quick.
Thank you.
It's 8:30 only.
Good to see everybody. Y'all take care.
Bye-bye.